Absolutely no one could have seen this coming, as Habs prospect Aatos Koivu looks like not only the best player for Team Finland in the World Junior Summer Showcase, he looks like the best Habs prospect so far, even better than guys like Michael Hage and LJ Mooney. His coach has incredible things to say about him, as he is now up to 6 goals, 1 assist in only 5 games, surpassing his goal total from international play in any previous year. We have to dive into what is turning him into one of the most underrated prospects for Montreal and how he's pulling this off. But not just that, Jesse, we have an article that has an interview from a player agent that dives into why the RFA market is a bit more confusing this year than last year and how that impacts the Habs trade prospects for one certain player. And finally, some interesting talk about Martin St. Louis, as one article has spurred some very curious discussion. All that coming up on this episode of Habs Digest, and we're going to start with Coach Marty. Now, the inspiration for this came from this article, Sports Illustrated, Tyler Major McNichol. I'll link it down below, but we have our own stuff to add to it. I suggest you go read that article on its own to complement what we're going to say. But Martin St. Louis' passion pushing Canadians toward greatness, and hey, this is going to have effects on guys like Koivu that we'll talk about later, and maybe a future trade. But for now, Jesse, I just want to dive into this. I feel like it's been a while since we've talked specifically about Marty, and I have my thoughts on this too, but on every year under Marty, not only has the point percentage gone up, but the growth of our young players has been better than I would say any team in the NHL. And again, being the youngest or second youngest, according to Puckpedia, team heading into this coming season, fresh off the playoffs as the youngest team in modern history to make the playoffs, I feel like the talk around Marty, he's a Jack Adams finalist, and I feel like somehow he still gets underrated by some fans. I mean, I just love to give a second to praise Marty any chance we get, but I think the youth movement, Jesse, is exactly what's making him the perfect coach, not only for this year, but I think for many more years to come.
And that's the big implication and takeaway from this is that Martin St. Louis, the best is yet to come because Martin St. Louis is seeing the game at a next level. And because we still have the second to youngest team, depending on how you kind of want to slice that in the NHL. He's kind of waited for this team to mature, for them to implement what he's already seeing. So we're going to see that things are just going to continue to get better for this Montreal Canadiens team as they're able to mature and really start to take on some of those advanced philosophies that we know Martin St. Louis wants to bring in this team. I mean, Josh, we're already seeing it materialize. It's a big part of the reason why we got into the playoffs last year. Yes, the players had their part, management, yes, but a big part of it was Martin St. Louis. Again, Ken Hughes wasn't doing any big favors. There was no big kind of acquisitions. It was really his vision of the game and then how he was then able to communicate that to the players, which was such a big reason of why they got in the playoffs. And I think, is it right to know, Josh, as well, that so much of just the culture and the vibes, which is so prized about the Montreal Canadiens right now, start with Martin St. Louis. It's hard to see anybody else that would quite have been able to execute that vision that Ken Hughes wanted as that intermediary between both the management and the players as Martin St. Louis has done.
Absolutely. And at this stage in the rebuild, it is so crucial. And I know we're right on the verge of finishing the rebuild, but just my 2 cents on this. I don't know if this is a hot take, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below. I would say, like I said earlier, I think the biggest asset for Marty, he's been a great connector there, like you said, but he's been so good working with players and helping them develop. Yes, Adam Nicholas does a lot of great stuff too, but being able to connect with these guys and help them grow year over year is so important. Coach. And 3 of our biggest key players for the future, Ivan Demidov, Juraj Slafkovsky, Lane Hutson, they're all between 19 and 21 years old. And there's still 4, 5, 6 years before they hit their primes. A lot of years where Marty's experience could be very valuable. So I know there's some people saying, can he win in the playoffs? Is that the kind of coach we need to bring in now? I still think he has a lot of value to give, but leave your thoughts down below. Though I want to move in, Jesse, pretty quickly here to another interesting subject, and that's the subject of the RFA market this year. There was an article on rg.org that's linked down below by Jimmy Murphy, but they interviewed a player agent, and he kind of gave some insight as to why the RFA market is the way it is this year versus last year. Now, I'm going to skip through some of this. Feel free to skip ahead to what we're talking about, but I think this has big implications on Montreal, again, specifically because of this guy, and I'm going to get into it. But so anyway, the agent basically says that, look, if you want to make an offer sheet, you have to overpay by definition because, you know, why would you even get the player if you didn't otherwise, right? What ends up happening though is management has to explain themselves to ownership, and then the owners are competitive against each other, and you don't want to be that guy that hey, I'm going to steal your guy, or I'm going to force you to pay more money, because the owners are all he says it's a bit of an old boys club. But specifically on the McTavish front, he said, look, if that cap space like Anaheim has exists, then the owner's going to say, okay, well then you better be sure they're not going to just laugh and match it, because if they match it, then we look like complete idiots, and all we did was just increase the market for no reason. And when you're talking about a guy like McTavish, that is a severe consequence of this offer sheet scenario right now. Other teams like the Minnesota Wild and Marco Rossi, you're seeing the same stuff. Teams are not really offer sheeting because they know these teams could match it. And to me, Jesse, that does affect the trade market for these guys. Because if a team is not fully on board with a contract going forward, the McTavish situation is weird. We haven't heard as much about that as, Minnesota and Rossi are far apart. To me, that indicates if there's no offer sheet and a team can't guarantee to get that kind of draft compensation, I think that can greatly affect the compensation that would go back if they decide to fully move on from a player if they can't agree on terms.
And that's a very interesting takeaway from all of this, Josh. Of course, we know, and this is a great article here by James Murphy, is that obviously like relationships in business matter a lot, and the precedents that we're setting. Of course, the salary cap has went up, considerably to 95.5 million. But again, I kind of get where the owners are coming from. You don't want to kind of artificially drive that up because that can have an exponential effect if that is done too much. And it's a very interesting insight as to why we're not seeing this used as a weapon a little bit more. That being said, I think in the right situations, when you need to catch the other team sleeping, it needs to kind of be that perfect fit. Otherwise, it doesn't really kind of make sense as you're applying, like in the case here for the Montreal Canadiens with Mason McTavish, very relevant situation right now. But we know that the Ducks, with all their cap space, 21.3 million right now, that they'd be able to match anything. And we know one thing about Kent Hughes being a very shrewd businessman himself, is he's not going to overpay in first round picks. Like, we got plans for those picks. And as much as we want McTavish, we're not going to be just kind of doling that out going forward here. So again, very interesting. You'd have to feel again, though, what the Habs' strength, their whole leverage right now in terms of negotiation is their vast amount of prospects that we've developed well that look like kind of a la Emil Heineman can like benefit some teams around the league, plus the prospects that we already have, and some very strong roster players as well right now. So I think, obviously with Carey Price's contract right now, I think offer sheeting really isn't in the best situation. We're one of the teams, again, that, have one of the highest salary caps in the league right now, being one of the youngest teams. You have to feel, Josh, like once we're able to maybe take care of that Carey Price situation, that maybe opens us up for the offer sheets a little bit more in the future, in my opinion. But again, just get this excited of what this team is doing while, quite frankly, we're not even being able to use all the money that we can in the most effective way. You have to have faith in Kent Hughes' ability as that kind of frees up. We start using that money in the best possible way, kind of on a player, kind of like a Mason McTavish when he needs a new contract, and how that can benefit the team. I think that's some money very well spent.
Absolutely. Managing the salary cap situation has been masterful. Managing assets has been masterful so far. And again, striking at the right time seems to be something that our front office has done very well. At the trade deadline, we didn't see exactly anything we loved to for sure ship out our guys, so we decided to keep them. The Monahan stuff in the past was great. We shipped out Jordan Harris, who didn't even get the qualifying offer for Line A in a second, and that has paid dividends, right? This year, Noah Dobson, yes, 2 first-round picks is steep, but Emil Heineman being the only roster player going back was a pretty good asset management considering you get 8 years of Dobson. So there's been so many good things right now. Can't wait to see what else is coming. Look, keep an eye on these RFAs though, because this trade market could very well pick up in the coming weeks. If it's certain that teams are not going to come to terms, I would fully expect trades to be more common than offer sheets. Keep your eye out. But the final thing here today, Jesse, we got to talk about, look, there's some very interesting stuff going on at the World Junior Summer Showcase, but Aatos Koivu is at the absolute forefront of it as he picked up his first assist of the World Junior Summer Showcase. No one expected him to do this, Jesse. This is the guy, look, we talked about him the other day, but this has gotten to a crazy point. The sole possession of the tournament lead with 7 points, and I think this was the only point he picked up today, and this is not updated on Elite Prospects, but you can see their international at the bottom. In 5 games, he now has 6 goals, 1 assist. You could look at any year of international play. In his draft year there, 2 years ago, under 18, 24 games played, he had 4 goals. Last year, under 19 and 20 combined, 3 goals in 19 games. I know this is just the summer showcase. It's not as intense as like real games. They're playing hard against each other, but it's not nearly as physical. It's a bit different, but regardless, he stands out. Being the tournament leader in scoring is nothing to shake a stick. Like, it's amazing. And even his head coach, Jesse, amazing skills. He's in a good flow all the time. He can do everything on the ice. He checks, he back checks. Those choices he makes with the puck are amazing. He has a good shot and is scoring so many goals. He absolutely is. I feel like we were talking about another Finnish guy, Oliver Kapanen, doing very similar stuff, right? All of a sudden, he started scoring goals at the World Championship, shot up to our list of high-up prospects, and he made the NHL. Like, this is a guy that just needed that extra little level of finesse, a bit of size, a bit more physicality, and what is he doing? It's exactly that. I feel like I could not have predicted this World Junior Summer Showcase to raise the stock on Aatos Koivu as high as it has so far. I think, hot take, he's been the best Habs player at this whole thing.
You'd have to say that again. Aatos Koivu is completely popping off. This is huge for his career right now. And Josh, quite frankly, it's hard to even ask quite more of him in this tournament right now. We've seen where the puck is just magnetically like following him around, like in the slot. He's getting with that quick release. He's really just making, more often than not, he's just finishing it off right now. Again, just absolutely incredible what we're seeing from him right now. Josh, for me, he's looking like a guy that can score 20 goals in the NHL. Like, yeah, we know if like the weight goes up and the strength, for sure, if, like the shot is there, like that's a shot that translates well to the NHL. It's a shooter's league. For me, you have to feel like being the son of Xhekaj, former Habs legend, you have to feel like the mindset is there. And as we know in pro sports, like that's 80 to 90% of it. Like, what do we think of when we think of Xhekaj? Like, we think like class act right away. It's like character, and you have to feel like that's translated. And I've been impressed with Aatos Koivu in interviews. He just comes across like a pro. Again, he's backing up, more importantly, on the ice here. Just with the showcase right now, like it's been absolutely unreal. We're seeing like all of our prospects basically playing like top line for, again, like, and this is the best of their nations at their respective age groups. Amazing to see. We also see, Josh, important to note that the sellies right now for Aatos Koivu already on an NHL level. So we're going to be having to pay even closer attention to him here on Habs Digest, just because of the amazing work that he's been doing lately.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I mean, we said the other day, hey, we're going to have to start paying more attention to this guy. Like, the whole video was around, like, wait, we got to start looking. And he didn't slow down. Like, there was no slowing down. And it's crazy to say that he has looked better than Michael Hage in this tournament, because we were expecting Hage to look great. Again, this tournament is not the... Yeah, he's looked amazing, right? He's looked great. Right. But the fact that Koivu's looking better is more of a praise to Koivu than it is anything negative to Hage. The only Habs prospect that's, like, not been outstanding, I should say, is Owen, but he wasn't really expected to, like, especially offensively, be flashy. He's a physical guy. So seeing Mooney do some amazing things there for Team USA, playing top line winger, Michael Hage be second line for this whole time, even moving up to the top line when like McKenna got sent back, and then Koivu coming in, leading the tournament in scoring. Like, again, it's not the be all end all, but it's an amazing sign. Leave your thoughts on Koivu down below, because it seems like this development curve is going a bit steeper than we thought, which is kind of crazy. I really love it. We love to hear from you down below. That'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. If you want Aatos Koivu to become a permanent Montreal Canadian, hey, I don't know any better way to show that love than hit the subscribe button. Hey, that's just what we say. That's what I heard. I hope it's true for you too. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.